President Cyril Ramphosa also answering questions from a journalist, our senior political reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who I think got probably about 5 of the questions in, as you would expect. Ziyanda, good evening to you. What did you make of it? Did we get strong answers? I mean, there were questions about the police commissioner and the police minister, for example. I don't know if we got a strong answer on that.
No, Stephen, actually, I don't think some of the answers were strong. I think there were a typical manner in which the president responds to questions, which is to shy away sometimes from detail. Of course, suppose that's the prerogative of being a president, but questions on, how soon we'll get the announcement on the Chief Justice, the answer was soon. How soon will he be making those changes in the security cluster as he announced a week ago, where the president apologized to the nation for the July unrest in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng? He said that would happen soon. He again apologized for, the loss of life during, this chaos and what the report describes as an orgy of violence, really. But the president, again, also not even giving detail about how he plans to deal with the escalating tensions between National Police Commissioner Kehla Sithole and Police Minister Bheki Cele. That forms part then of what this report had actually characterized as, one, it's the factional battles within the ANC, but also the way in which cabinet, does its work. I also asked him a question about that, about how his own ministers at various points in time actually contradict what he, as the commander-in-chief, actually has to say. And he says, well, our democracy is relatively new and they're going to streamline the manner in which they communicate, but it's par for the course then for a democracy that is about almost 30 years, though, Stephen, at this stage.
Also, of course, there are plenty of questions around, for example, as you mentioned, the Chief Justice, statements around the state-owned entities coming through as well today. That's been one of the themes, really, of the last few days.
Certainly, I think there's been a lot of emphasis about renewing the state-owned enterprises. The president going back to relying on the outcomes of the Zondo Commission report, saying that even when it comes to dealing with other matters related to corruption, ministers having to step down, he says he'll wait for the final part of that particular report, but he said Transnet is already renewing itself and that there's going to be an agency that is going to be overseeing how all these state-owned enterprises are operating. So whether you're talking about PRASA, Eskom, this is also something that came out a little earlier on this afternoon when the president was responding to the SONA debate where MPs were critiquing him, and that's sort of the feedback that he's given, that this agency will also ensure that the various departments and cabinets also stop working in silos and that they thread together and that there's some sort of cohesion. And that's exactly where the question about how this cohesion will come about when, there doesn't seem to be a strong handle over the various ministers and the mandate, that the government is meant to follow.
The issue of foreign nationals, he said we need to deal with this sensitively. No South African should take any action into their own hands. That seems to be perhaps a rebuke against people who are doing that.
Yeah, in some ways, Stephen, I would say so, but I think it was important for the president to give a measured response in this regard, especially with these pockets of movements and organizations that are cropping up here and there that are fueling, anti-foreigner or sentiments. I guess the immigration issue is something that's been revived again through the various political parties whom some would say have been managing the immigration issue in a reckless manner. And so the president, giving an example about how other countries have been doing it, that there's a call that South Africa should follow suit in terms of ensuring that they reserve, quote unquote, certain jobs for South Africans, whether skilled or unskilled. He's again referred to that critical skills list that's been released by the Home Affairs Department, which we all know, Stephen, this process had not been undertaken for several years now. So also emphasizing that the security apparatus is on alert for any possible violence, but emphasizing the message that South Africa is not a xenophobic country. It does not have an anti-foreigner, sentiment, and really, they are just trying to manage what it would seem the president admits is an issue that has not necessarily been given attention to for quite some time, and it's almost now being hijacked, if I could say, by political parties and other elements within society.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, our senior political reporter, thank you very much indeed.